Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, hanging out with you where sports meets life. And we appreciate you being here on youtube.com, facebook.com as both /Wake Up Call DT and wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Worldwide, we've had the opportunity to cover the NCAA tournament in a bigger way than we ever have from coast to coast. And that FAU team, they're all right. So they're heading to the Final Four for the first time ever. And I am picture in picture with the leadership of Florida Atlantic University, what it's like to win in paradise. And we've talked about it before. VP and Director of Athletics, Brian White. Brian, how are you?
Doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So you and I spoke a while back when the announcement was made about FAU joining the American Athletic and the whole hashtag winning in paradise and all of that. To know that the world is seeing the branding of FAU right now, not just basketball, but overall, has got to be pretty special from your seat to know that there is a giant spotlight on the university as a whole.
It is. It is. We're very proud of the success of obviously our men's basketball program, but the whole athletic department advancing. You mentioned into the American and the growth of the whole university. You know, academically we've improved. Enrollment on campus has improved. On campus residents. So it's definitely a ever improving university and a great place to represent.
To those who don't know Boca Raton, Florida, and what it means to win in paradise, how would you describe that?
You know, I would say we're a beautiful campus. We're in, to me, maybe the most beautiful place in the country, Boca Raton, Florida. We all know we're 1.8 miles to the beach.
Yeah.
We're the only FBS football stadium in the country with an ocean view. We actually have some on-campus residences with an ocean view. It's really an incredible place, but it's also a place with extremely high ambition and extremely high potential. You know, we're one of the best recruiting areas in the country, and in terms of high school athletes, and we're a growing university. We're kind of like the up and coming stock. We're not your mature brand. We're pretty young as a university, and because of that, we have a fun young alumni base, and we have a great student showing at all of our athletic events. Our student attendance has been phenomenal, and they bring great energy. So it's a great place to be.
It's been pretty, like you said, you're a younger university. You look at back in the IAAC or the TAAC, pardon me, 1993-94. I mean, this basketball program is not that old. When you see Final Four with a team that didn't start back in the 20s or the 30s or the 50s, but back in 1993, it is pretty remarkable how this university at Florida Atlantic has really ramped up. Do you reflect upon that and say, like, hey, college basketball for us started in 1993, right before the 21st century?
It's nuts, and we do reflect on it because a lot of the people are still here. So
Yeah.
that's what's pretty cool is, you know, our history isn't 100 years ago. You know, our history is, you know, 20, 30 years ago from when we started. So a lot of our fans and donors and alums, they were at those first games, and they have stories from and the football program started even later in 2000. But they have stories from the very beginning. So we're very close to our origins, and it's a regular conversation. We're very proud of it.
There's a guy at Tennessee. His name's Danny White. I don't know if you guys are any relation. And so, obviously kidding. So, him being there after being at UCF, you just so happen because the world of sports is very poetic. FAU takes on Tennessee. So, en route to your first ever Final Four as a school, you had to go through Tennessee and your brother. How was the interaction before and after the game with Danny?
You know, great, great, and exactly how it always is. You know, we've it's happened before,
Yeah.
with Danny and my other brother Mike, and heck, Danny, before they played us, Tennessee played Duke, where my father had just recently retired. So a whole lot of connections there, and for us, you know, it was great to spend time with them beforehand, and then afterwards, you know, obviously incredibly excited for myself, but I'm sad for Tennessee, and I root for them anytime they're not playing us. And Danny was very happy for us, but you know, understandably, he wanted to win as well. So you know, probably a little more awkward than our normal interactions, but still, I think he was genuinely happy for us.
You seem like with your father and your family as a whole, that there's some playful competition. So have you sent any fun messages or made any phone calls or had any dinner table moments? I mean, I would imagine getting to know you and spending some time with Danny at UCF that it would be fair to say that there has to be some type of competition in a way.
It's funny. We're all very competitive, and we do talk a lot of trash about everything that doesn't matter. Danny's got a big head, so we call him Superdome. I mean, we all got things that we make fun of each other for, but losing a game is not that
Yeah.
that to us is it means too much. So we don't trash talk about any of that. As odd as that may sound to the fans, because I think most people think that I'm texting them, "We beat y'all, we own you," whatever. That's not how we operate.
That coming here from Brian White, and Brian here with me, VP and Director of Athletics at FAU. I'm going to read off some history, and it's going to take a minute for me to get your answer because FAU has done a couple things this time around. Never won an NCAA, had only played in the NCAA tournament one other time from 1993 to now. The men's basketball team had never won an NCAA tournament game. That happens. Never advanced to the round of 32. That happened. Winning in the round of 32, advancing to the first Sweet 16 in history, winning the Sweet 16, advancing to the first Elite Eight, winning that Elite Eight game, and advancing to the first Final Four. So it's not just one thing or one move. It's winning, advancing, winning, advancing, winning, advancing, and continuing on here. There's a lot of history that a VP and director of athletics has to build upon because some schools would say, we won our first NCAA game. We advanced to the Sweet 16 for the first time. We made it to the Elite Eight for the first time. You're doing all of these firsts in one season within a few days of each other. And that to me has to be an incredible journey for you all to take together. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. No, it's incredible to watch. I mean, all the credit goes to we have a really special group of student athletes and coaches. And it's just so much fun to have watched them develop over the last few years. Some of us that are closer to the program, have been preaching how great this team was going to be. And I think it's harder when you're not close to the program to see the genuine hard work they put in every day, the way they get along, the way they like each other, the way they're all about the right things. There's a great culture in the program. And with that, you've seen student athletes really get better. The individual player development has just been off the charts with some of these players to where they are now to where they were 3 years ago. But yet, as a team, they stick together. They're very connected. It's just been incredible to watch, and like I said, it wasn't just a splash in the pan one year. Heck, we only have one senior, but it's been a developmental program, and it's been incredible.
There's this guy in your program, Dusty May, and he's all right as well. And you hired Dusty, and your story of when you hired Dusty is very incredible. You and I were talking off the air about it. His first season at FAU was 2018-19, and this being his fifth season. Bring me into you hiring Dusty May because it was your hire, but it came at a time that was very unique in your tenure at FAU?
The search opened my second day on the job, and we where we made the change, and then made the hire. I think in less than a week or two. It was a pretty fast process, and started here, and I was actually living in the on-campus housing with my two kids at the time, two young kids at the time. I think they were a newborn and a 2-year-old. They're 7 and 5 now. My two oldest, we have a 1-year-old as well. And I still remember it was the first was a lot of phone calls, and you do reference calls. So I'm walking around campus over the weekend, and campus is pretty quiet weekend. And I'm taking a lot of phone calls, reference calls, et cetera. And then I do the phone interviews here in my office on campus. And after the interviews, I'd worked with Dusty before. There was some familiarity there. But also they had won the conference, won Conference USA, which we're in 2 years in a row, won previously the WAC. So 3 regular season conference championships in a row, new success at our level. But also they were having some good success at Florida. And so to have the Florida connection as well as the Conference USA connection, I thought was pretty unique. And then within the phone interview process, he was just extremely impressive, as I'm sure you've heard him, or probably spoken with him. And he
Yeah.
just is an incredible communicator. He's very bright, but also I know him to be a tireless worker, and a great, very talented relationship person. And that goes to his staff, to his student athletes. So there's just so many things that stood out about him in the throughout the process, but also me knowing him personally, that it just kind of stood out to me as the one we should target and go all in on. So really, he was the only one we brought to campus, and we went all in and closed the deal, and hired him within a couple days after that. Never looked back.
And you said you had history with Dusty before hiring him at FAU. Speak on that history and how you crossed paths and what you took from it.
We both worked together at Louisiana Tech. I was an associate athletic director at Louisiana Tech, and revenue generation, things of that sort. Kind of on my path, how I came up. And Dusty was an assistant basketball coach there as well. So got to know him there, and he worked for my brother there, and then again at Florida. But really well at Louisiana Tech. I just, not only from my brother's perspective, got a lot of inside information on just how he was
Yeah.
as a tireless worker each and every day, great energy every day. I mean, he's one of those people that just, if he's had a bad day, nobody else knows he's had a bad day, because it sure doesn't seem like he's ever had a bad day. And just brings it every single day. And to me, that's a talent. So I was always, always kept him in mind as somebody, if I ever had a coaching opening, that would be one that he'd be on my short list. And I've always been really impressed with him.
So for you, was there interest from him when that job opened, or was it you just saying, like you said, he's always been on my radar?
There was mutual interest. I mean, in the, we connected pretty early on. He was one of my first phone calls after the job opened up. So there was definitely mutual interest. And at the time, he's on the road, I believe, recruiting for Florida, and he's got a million things going on. And I'm running a search. Just took an AD job 2 days ago, just at the press conference. We had a million things going on, so it was a little bit of a whirlwind. But yeah, I definitely think the familiarity was probably a positive thing for him, with us having worked together, and he was obviously familiar with the state of Florida, and this region, I think, is an appealing region for really anybody. Beautiful place to live.
This coming from the VP and Director of Athletics at Florida Atlantic University, Brian White, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. He's been there for, speaking of Dusty May, been there for 5 seasons now. You just said that interaction and reasons why he was enticing to hire and his attitude and whatnot. But there's a difference between hiring someone and keeping someone. Why have you believed in Dusty May before the world saw him? Why have you believed that he was the right leader for the job for the last 5 years?
For the same reasons we hired him, but also, it's easier to believe when you're closer to the program. I'm at practices. I'm obviously at every game, and I see that consistent energy. I see that our players have gotten better every year within the program. Heck, we only had 5 winning seasons in the history of our program prior to Coach May arriving. He's had 5 straight winning seasons, each one with a winning percentage better than the last. So he's proven it each and every year. I know nationally, the attention goes, oh, he's at the Final Four this year, didn't, make the tournament last year. But when you start off at a program that is as down as it was, you don't always see progress from afar. Well, but it was easy to see firsthand here. And I think our student athletes, our fans, our season ticket base is growing every year. Those that follow FAU basketball closely, I think, have believed in Coach May all along.
Why do you think the team is winning? What is it about, like you said, being close to the program, being around the program, the relationship you have to the program is different. And I've said this before and in this week on the show, that it's so easy for people to run to the FAUs and the Miamis and the UConns and the San Diego States now because you're all on that national stage. But you're there every day for years, seeing the growth, seeing the maturation and whatnot. Why do you believe that this team is winning this season the way that they have been?
You know, I would say a variance of reasons that probably cause most teams to win. First and foremost, we have really good players, right? We've really talented, good players, but a lot of teams have good players and good talented players. I would say that the sum of our, that our whole is probably better than the sum of our parts. Even so, we do have really good players, but then they play better together because there is great connection in our players. Our players have an extremely high work ethic on their own. It's not, they don't just show up to practice and maybe go put up some shots later. They work really, really hard on their own to get better. We got guys going in on top of their regular strength and conditioning to do individual workouts and whatever they can do. They have a strong desire to get better as individual players, and I think that's a little bit contagious. And then I think obviously we have a really hardworking, intelligent coaching staff that do everything they can to help our players be successful. They love our players. That I think there's some great relationships, and they want more than anything for them to be successful. And then probably just as importantly, our players are bought into that. They believe that their coaches are going to do everything they can to set them up to be successful. So I think there's buy-in on the game plan. There's buy-in on the practice plan. There's buy-in on everything they do. So great culture combined with some really talented, hardworking dudes. Just a special thing to watch.
This team, like you said, the whole better than the sum of its parts. There's 9 guys playing out there, right? You got almost 5 coming off and 5 on to start the game. To see a deep team like this, where it's been described by other people during this run in the NCAA tournament, that you're not looking at 1 or 2 guys, you're looking at a group of players that and coaches have talked about, who do you guard? Because it's not that this guy's good and that guy's good. It's that at any given night, someone's going to give to it. When you have a team that you can't have a defense shift to one area and one person for, because they're going to leave somebody else vacant, how cool is that as VP and Director of Athletics at FAU to see the Owls truly, I would say, to play off of the Owl terminology, they stretch their wings pretty wide on the roster, and you can't really determine what feather is going to be the one that makes the team fly that day.
It's incredible. And I'll say this. I mean, it's a testament to their unselfishness. And that might be one of the most key words about our team is unselfishness. So the lineups have switched throughout the year. Nobody's got an ego that they need to be a starter. They need to be X or Y. The unselfishness of this team is huge. And then as you're watching it, I know our fans always love that it's so unpredictable as to who's going to step up and be the star on a given night. It's great. You don't have, your classic, let's wait for this guy to get hot. And if he doesn't get hot, we're in trouble. It's totally unpredictable who's going to step up and be the star on a given night. And I think it's fun for our fans to watch, but I think it also keeps our players locked in, that they know that in a given night that they need to be locked in and ready to go. So I think it's great all around.
Nick Boyd, this run almost didn't happen if not for a couple seconds left in a game and a layup by Nick with just under 3. It might have been 2.6 seconds, 2.5 on the clock. Bring me into that, because that moment is do or die, 66, 65 or 65, 64. There's always a run that teams make where you can go back to a game or two and say there was a split second of difference. Did your heart at any point stop? And when did it start to beat again against Memphis?
I think we were all in disbelief. I mean, and not that we didn't believe that we would score, but it was just such an incredible play. And it just happened so darn quick. You thought maybe it would be a long shot that you got to watch the ball in the air. He just took it right to the rim and scored so quick. Oh, it was incredible. It was maybe, the most exciting moment of sport I've ever witnessed in person. I mean, it was just awesome to see the way that play came about. And that's another classic example. 2 of our 2 leading scorers are being face guarded. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to give it to them. And Coach May makes a great decision to give Nick Boyd a chance. Nick Boyd asked for the ball. and he wanted to step up, and he's a great leader in his own right and a really talented player, and he just went for it and got us a bucket. So it was really really cool to see.
Does it build anything in the background for you as a leader at FAU, knowing that Memphis will be on the schedule next season as a conference opponent in the American?
You know what? Memphis is a really, really talented team. Man, that game, as we just discussed, could have went either way. Memphis looks really, really good. So for us, I think it makes us feel confident that we can play in that league at the highest level of that league. So, but going to the Final Four does too. So it did at the time surely make us feel pretty good that we thought it was a good test to go up against a good American team, first time in the tournament in a long time, only the second time in our history. And to be able to take that test to the wire, we felt good already. But then to be able to finish and close it out was a great feeling.
Brian White, VP and Director of Athletics at FAU, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Before I let you go, I want to know through your eyes this tournament. So, have you been with the team all the way through from the beginning? Where are you sitting? When do you run out onto the court? Like what is, because I see myself as a VP and Director of Athletics, my reaction. And I see Dusty May saying, throw up the fours, boys. So like I see those moments. So I want to know, where have you been with them all the way through, and where are you and how are you experiencing this run? Because through the eyes of the Director of Athletics and VP at FAU, it's a really special way to see it. And I know some leadership is very reserved and whatnot, and others are, running out, grabbing the hat and having a good time. So I want to know how Brian White has done this road.
Probably somewhere in between. We have a pregame donor reception, pregame alumni reception. I always go by there first and visit with all of our supporters that have come and traveled and love the team and connect with everybody I can. And then usually get into the arena at least probably an hour and a half early. And I'll sit, and there's institutional seats at the scorers table that are kind of behind and a little bit towards the center court of the team bench on your side. And those seats require no cheering. We consistently break that rule, but nobody's ever disciplined us yet. But we don't go too overboard. I sit there with my president. We've had my board chair there as well, and kind of use those as our home base for the leadership team. And then at halftime, right before the game when the fans come in, then again at halftime and post game, I'll go and visit with the fans and the donors, et cetera. And then I always go in the locker room post game and then on to the media session, which all of those things have been fun. I mean, the locker room after one of these wins is a pretty incredible place to be.
When FAU moved on to play the game against Tennessee, you did that by defeating one of the favorite teams that people were watching, was a 16 seed FDU and Tobin Anderson. I called that game David versus David because not a lot of people gave you a lot of credit. What was it like to win a game like that, knowing that obviously you want to move forward, but you were defeating a team that, like FAU, so many people were starting to really jump on? And like they say, when you're in these arenas and people go to the games and they don't have a dog in the race, they start kind of going with, the upset and going with the team that, is maybe taking the momentum at the time. What was the experience like of FDU versus FAU? Because David versus David had a lot of people saying, in a way, they kind of wanted both.
I mean, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year or last year or whenever that Florida Atlantic would be in their second tournament appearance of all time, first one in a long time, in the round of 32, competing for a chance to go to the Sweet 16, and we'd be the one everybody was rooting against, I would have never believed you. I mean, FDU had a just incredible run to be a 16 over 1, and more power to them, and that was special. So, I mean, in some ways, you're happy for them. It's nothing against them, but I just would have never thought that the common fan would be so strongly anti FAU as if we were, Duke or Carolina in there. I mean, we weren't the blue blood. We were pretty ecstatic to be in there ourselves. We were making history ourselves. So it was unique to get, to get booed and the chance against, and so aggressively for FDU. It felt like the momentum in there was one our players actually frankly had to overcome, which was good for them, and they were strong willed and didn't let them affect them. But I think that's real when you have the ball and everybody else is chanting for the opponent in the whole place, and nobody in there wants you to win. So that was cool. And then I think in the later rounds it maybe flipped the other way.
Well, and getting to that perfect segue, you're in the Garden for you in March in the Garden, which I consider to be arguably, but to many people, the greatest venue. To go on this run with FAU and be the VP and director of athletics and to see this from your seat. The Garden is the Garden. And you have Tennessee in the Garden, you have Kansas State in the Garden. And watching this run, because I have watched this run, I am the person that'll be from noon to past midnight watching these games. So seeing this FAU run and knowing Madison Square Garden and having been there last year, that in and of itself, that moment can get too big for you. Why do you feel like FAU didn't get lost in the moment? Because they say some teams have to go into the Garden early, an hour or two early before practice, just to like get their emotions right, because the Garden is I mean, it takes your breath away.
I just think we have a really special group. They're mentally stronger willed than I could ever be in the moment. I mean, just them going to the free throw line late and knocking down, doing really well on the free throw line in the Garden with so much on the line. It's just a strong willed, confident group.
Yeah.
They believe in themselves. So I just think it's a testament to them. And part of that's the composure of our head coach. I think it's pretty cool late in the game when Dusty's smiling in a group when, and it's not just now, it's all year. It was a game at Florida early in the years. I remember the first time I noticed it towards
Yeah.
the end of the game, we're down big and they were smiling with each other and building each other up. And, they just don't seem to feel a lot of pressure. It's unreal, but it's a strong-willed group.
You talked about having the crowd go against you with FDU at the Garden toward the end of the Kansas State game. It could have felt maybe a little bit of the same way with Marquise Noel and him saying this is my city and how that's gone on. So bring me into that game, because FAU has gone from the, oh my God, they won it with 2 whatever seconds left, to, well, we want FDU, to, all right, let's get excited against Tennessee, to, well, who's going to go against Marquise Noel in New York City? So there's been so many different ways that FAU has experienced the crowd for or against them. What was it like in the game against Kansas State and Marquise Noel?
I mean, I don't know that I noticed too much of a crowd swing either way. It was probably a little more balanced than the other two. We had a lot of supporters in that game as well that had come out. The New York contingency for us was pretty strong. It's actually New York is the tri-state area is our second biggest alumni base following Florida. So I felt like it was more balanced in that game. Marquise is a really, really talented player, and that was, a fun game to watch, a stressful game to watch, and just two really, really good teams battling it out. So probably a little more balance would be the answer.
And to end the game without allowing them to even get a shot up and advance to the Final Four, how beautiful and incredible of a moment was that Kansas State didn't even have the chance to tie the game?
Just a truly special experience to end the game, and more so regardless of how it ended, just having certainty that Florida Atlantic was going to the Final Four was a pretty amazing experience. Incredibly emotional from a lot of the supporters, those that have been around a long time, the amount of people that had been around since the literally the inception of the program, as fans and season ticket holders every year, and the just the pure joy in the room amongst the fans in the stands was just great to see.
And in closing here, text message and phone call wise, how busy has your phone been? And has there been any truly notable messages that you've received that stood out to you?
A whole lot. It's buzzing literally right now. It has not stopped, and it's been near impossible to keep up. You know, I mean, a bunch of them, too many to name one, but no, a whole lot. You know, of really thoughtful messages, sometimes from people I hadn't spoken to in years, not for any reason other than we're all busy and everything else. So, um, it's been very cool to see the the kindness that people send you these messages, and it's been great. And then also we gotta fulfill a lot of tickets for the Final Four. So
And how has that been going?
it's been great. Yeah, a lot of interest. Really great. I think we were at over 14,000 requests for our for our 3,400 seat allotment. So we're excited about the just the growth of the fan base. We had so many new donors, people that have been maybe casual fans that are now wanting to buy flights to fly halfway across the country and buy tickets to go to the game, and are already asking about season tickets for next year. So that sort of thing is fun. But I think we've inspired this community, and there's just so much wealth and potential down here, but there's also so much to do. So you really need to have a lot of success to earn the fan base where we are, and we've done that. So it's and we've done it more and more over time, but this really takes us over the top.
Well, I mean, and to get to that, just what the NCAA tournament can do in and of itself to almost overnight, it feels, change the donor connection, the amount of money raised, the fan base. I mean, for you, from your seat as VP and Director of Athletics at Florida Atlantic, what does the NCAA tournament do? Because you're witnessing it right now.
I mean, it galvanizes the fan base, brings people together. It the community as well. The students, the passion among our student base right now is through the roof. And there's a lot of metrics that show the more students are interested in athletics, involved in student groups, et cetera, the better they do academically. But also for recruiting, for enrollment, for applications, which then enhanced applications would then allow us to be more competitive with who we accept into FAU.
Yeah.
It's all through the roof. I mean, just it's exposure that there's no way you could ever buy.
And for you, this team, 35 wins in 38 tries, 35-3, more wins than any other Division One men's basketball program of over 360 schools. So I guess it's been going okay at FAU for you for this team. Words that you want to say to, in closing here, words you want to say to the fan base that's been with you from the beginning, as well as to all the new fans that are buying FAU hats and going out to the game coming up soon.
Just really grateful for our fans that have been with us for a long time, and grateful for the support. And we've been it's been a heck of a run the last 5 years and of improvement and growth. And there's been many that believed in us all along and stayed strong. And for those that have come along and helped us grow our fan base, that's great. That's exactly what we need. We're a young institution, like we mentioned earlier. We're not near our maturity, and there'll be a whole lot more people that we need to kind of join in from the community. So the future is very bright for FAU, and we could not be more excited about all of our sport programs. And this run is a great testament that we can have success in every sport at FAU.
Ending Conference USA time on an incredible note and making a massive case on what you can be in the American Athletic Conference. Things are going well for FAU.
No
Congratulations.
doubt. Yes.
Congratulations to you, Brian. And thank you for taking the time. I know that phone's been buzzing, but you answered my call and I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you. Appreciate the coverage.